more specific, we now need to know, I'm going to take this 130 shading out, because that was about 2.5%, right?
Yeah.
Ish. We need to go a little bit further than that to get into Mensa. Right? We have to score a little higher. Obviously, that's not the top 2%, that's the top 2.5%. So the question I have for you guys is, to the nearest IQ score, what does that? What does that? So let me ask the question. Let me ask a question. What kind of problem is this?
Backwards.
It's now backwards. Because you now have a percentage, and you've got to reverse engineer the score. It's now a backwards problem, isn't it? Love it! Let's go to still normal. Now I think we need them. Let's go to still normal now. To the nearest IQ point, what is 2%? Which percentile would this be, friends?
98.
The 98th, based on what Susan said earlier, with 97.5.
And we get the 2% by doing 6 divided by 300.
We don't have to do that. We just got to put in 2%. Oh no, they said on the requirement to be the top 2% of standardized tests.
Oh, okay.
I did that, but when I saw that they estimated 6 million people, I said, oh crap, they just told us the answer. 6 million divided by 300 million is 150, which is 2%, but then I realized they just took that number because they did the 2%. So it's circular, chicken chasing its own tail here. Sorry. I get excited easily, as you may have noticed. So backwards, this guy's kind of blue. Which we're going to shade left or right?
Right.
Yeah, you can, believe it or not, you shade both ways, can't you?
Yeah.
I think shading right makes the most sense, because then you put in your 2%. But if you shade left, you would just go put in 98%. We'll get you to the same point. But I like your guys' idea of shade to the right. Here comes the curve. There's the 2%. 2.05 standard deviations. So it's just a smidge above 2. Just a smidge above 2. So I'm doubting that's going to change the score all that much as far as IQ goes. But how, let me ask you a question. How would you convert that to an IQ score? Multiply by 15? Why? How would you do that?
That's how you convert it.
Because that's how you do it, Sean. That's exactly right. You think about it's a backwards problem, right? Susan, go.
Because your average is 0.
Uh-huh.
So you have to multiply that to the standard deviation by 2.05.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If you think about how we converted raw scores to z-scores, this was that conversion that, Susan, you did this an hour ago. That was Susan's conversion an hour ago. She said, take the difference between the raw score and the average and divide by sigma. So think about that. First, subtract the mean, then divide by the standard deviation. Now go back to algebra class. Turn that around. If you have to invert that, make it backwards, you do everything in exactly the backwards order. Multiply by the standard deviation first, and then add the average. And that'll get you back to your z-score. That'll get you back to your raw score. It's just algebra at that point. It's just turning the formula around. So you could use this formula, of course, but in order to solve this for x, you have to do that. So all you got to do now is run through. That's your 2.05. Sigma is 15. Average is 100. So that's going to be not much more, is it? Maybe 131. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ish.
130.75.
There you go. Call it 131. There you go. 131 on your IQ test gets you in the top 2%. Whereas 130 on your IQ test gets you in the top 2.5%. So you see the difference in 0.5% right there is 1 point. And it's only going to get less and less deviant the further right you go, because that curve is going to pinch down exponentially as you go further out. That's why 145 doesn't pick up all that much more area. Even if you go up 15 more points, you're not picking up an excessive amount of area. I think a percentage point, or maybe 1.5. Go ahead, Nathan.
This site was saying that different IQ tests measure on different scales, so 132 can be equal to about 148 on another test.
148?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Which test? Stanford Binet?
Doesn't say.
Doesn't say. That doesn't surprise me at all, does it? That does not surprise me, because all those tests are based on some psychologist's definition of mental age.
Well, that's not really standard then.
Does it say? What is standard? Exactly. What becomes baseline? That doesn't surprise me one bit. Say that again.
They've given us like 8 standards.
Right.
Tests, you know.
Double standard. Double standard was quadruple double standard. Yeah, I agree. I mean, all of this, please realize I'm not trying to imply anything with any of these numbers, other than they've given us a measure They've given us a distribution, and that means we can pull stuff from it as far as areas and who's going to be there. So that's all we can do. I'm not trying to say that it means we're smarter or dumber, even though they say smart Americans like you. Maybe. I bet you one of those A's in there is for American. No, it's not. You just have to Latin word. I can forget the acronym. Forget the acronym.
Yeah, it is not.
Yeah, keep putting cream on fuzzy green strawberries. Yeah, forget the acronym. Good. Let's get off of this IQ score stuff. Let's change speeds. Let's change speeds. Go back to the screen. Let's go to human